The Grand Colosseum floated in the darkness between stars, a massive structure built by beings who had disappeared thousands of years ago. Inside, millions watched as Champion Brevik raised all four of his arms in victory. His latest opponent lay unconscious on the arena floor, the 200th warrior to fall before him. Brevik stood 3 meters tall, his body covered in armor that gleamed like captured starlight. Each of his 4 arms held a different weapon, and his species, the Chromath, had ruled the warrior castes of a dozen worlds for centuries. He had never known defeat. Today, he had grown tired of easy victories. The champion turned to face the viewing platforms, where representatives from 47 different species sat watching. His voice boomed across the arena, amplified by technology that carried his words to billions of viewers across the galaxy. "I am done with this," Brevik shouted. 200 fights, and not one worthy opponent. Is this the best your united galaxy can offer? Children? Weaklings? Where are the warriors worthy of my time? The crowd fell silent. Such disrespect had never been shown in the Colosseum before. The grand tournament was meant to celebrate unity among species, not to humiliate them. But Brevik had earned his arrogance through countless victories. "I issue a challenge," Brevik continued, planting his weapons in the arena floor. "Send me someone who can truly fight. Send me a warrior from a species that understands war. If you cannot, then I declare your galaxy weak and unworthy of unity. I will take my people and leave your councils forever." The threat sent waves of panic through the diplomatic observers. The Chromath military strength was crucial to galactic defense. Without them, several border systems would fall to raiders within months. The Council could not afford to lose Brevik's support. But no warrior had been able to stand against him for more than minutes. In the High Council chamber above the arena, Elder Counselor HFY sat in emergency session with his fellow leaders. The old Vesk administrator had served for 70 years, and he had never faced such a crisis. "We have tried everyone," said Counselor Mira, her 3 eyes blinking in distress. The Thorian berserkers lasted 4 minutes. The Silk Warriors used every technique in their 1,000-year tradition and fell in 6. What option remains? HFY's long fingers moved across his data tablet, scrolling through restricted files. These were species deemed too dangerous or too primitive for contact. Most were pre-spaceflight civilizations, protected by ancient laws. Others were quarantined, for various reasons. Then he found it. A single entry marked with red warnings. Species, human. Status, quarantined. Risk level, extreme. Contact, forbidden by order of predecessor AI. HFY felt his breathing slow. The predecessors had been the galaxy's first great civilization, vanished 10,000 years ago. Their artificial intelligence systems still functioned, maintaining ancient facilities and databases. When the predecessors had marked something dangerous, they meant it. He opened the file and read the assessment. 500 years ago, when humanity had first developed radio technology, a predecessor monitoring system had scanned their world. The AI's conclusion was brief. Species shows exceptional aptitude for warfare. History demonstrates continuous armed conflict across entire civilization timeline. Technology level low, but combat effectiveness disproportionately high. Recommend quarantine until species demonstrates peaceful coexistence for minimum 1,000 years. The file included a summary of human history. HFY read with growing horror. Humans had fought wars continuously for their entire recorded history. They had weaponized everything, from rocks to atoms. Their planet, designated Earth, was classified as a death world, with gravity 30% higher than galactic standard and filled with predators that would terrify most species. "I may have found someone," HFY said slowly. "But the consequences could be severe." The council listened as he explained. The debate that followed lasted 3 hours. Some counselors argued that releasing a quarantined species violated every protocol. Others insisted that Brevik's challenge left them no choice. If they appeared weak, the entire galactic unity would collapse. Finally, they voted. By a narrow margin, they agreed to contact Earth. The message was sent through an ancient relay system. Using technology the humans would be able to receive. It traveled for 3 weeks through space, finally reaching Earth's solar system and transmitting on every frequency the humans monitored. On Earth, the message caused chaos. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, they knew. And the galaxy wanted a fighter. Earth's governments convened an emergency session. The United Earth Defense Force, formed 20 years earlier, after humanity had finally achieved global peace, took charge of the response. Admiral Yuna, the UEDF's commanding officer, read the alien message with careful attention. "They want one warrior," she said to her staff. "One person to represent our entire species in combat. The message says the fight will determine whether humanity is worthy of joining galactic civilization." Note: "It could be a trap," suggested one general. "Or it could be our only chance to make contact," Yuna replied. "Either way, we need to respond. The question is, who do we send?" The debate about selecting Earth's champion took 2 days. Some argued for sending their absolute best fighter, the top-ranked champion who had won the Global Combat Championship 5 years running. Others suggested a diplomat who could fight if needed. A few wanted to send an entire team, despite the message's request for one warrior. Admiral Yuna made the final decision with practical military logic. She looked at the duty rosters and found who was currently available at the main training facility. Sergeant Jiwoo had just finished a 16-hour training rotation with new recruits. She was exhausted, covered in mud from the obstacle courses, and had been looking forward to sleep. Instead, Yuna's aide woke her at 0300 hours. Jiwoo stumbled into the briefing room, still wearing her training fatigues. At 28 years old, she had served in the UEDF for 10 years. Before that, she had trained in traditional martial arts since childhood. She was ranked number 3,847 inches the global combat standings, which meant she was extraordinarily skilled, but not exceptional by human standards. "Sergeant Jiwoo," Admiral Yuna began, "I'm about to tell you something that will change everything you know about the universe." 10 minutes later, Jiwoo sat in stunned silence. Aliens existed. They wanted a fighter. She had 1 hour to pack. "Why me?" she finally asked. "Because you're very good. You're available. And frankly, you're the kind of fighter who won't cause diplomatic incidents," Yuna explained. "You're professional. You follow orders, and you know when to stop. Some of our top fighters are brilliant in the ring but terrible at representing humanity. We need someone who can fight and think." Jiwoo nodded slowly, processing everything. "What if I lose?" "Then we deal with the consequences," Yuna said. "But Jiwoo, I've seen your record. You've never lost a fight when it mattered. Don't start now." 1 hour later, Jiwoo boarded humanity's only faster-than-light ship, an experimental vessel built from combined global resources. She carried one duffel bag with her basic gear. As the ship launched toward the coordinates provided in the alien message, she leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. She had no idea that she was about to be very, very late. And she had no idea that the galaxy was about to learn what humanity truly was. Jiwoo woke to alarms blaring throughout the ship. She unbuckled from her rest pod and stumbled to the cockpit, where the pilot was frantically working the controls. "What's wrong?" she asked. "The navigation system just crashed," the pilot said, sweat beading on his forehead. "We're off course. I'm trying to recalculate, but this technology is experimental. We've never actually tested it at these distances." Jiwoo felt her stomach sink. "How long until we arrive?" We were supposed to be there in 2 days. Now? I don't know. Maybe 2 weeks if I can fix this." She returned to her pod and tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. The ship shuddered, and groaned as it pushed through faster than light space. Every few hours, something else went wrong. A coolant leak, a power fluctuation, a backup system that failed when they needed it most. Meanwhile, at the Grand Colosseum, Brevik was growing impatient. The council had announced that a warrior from a previously unknown species would arrive to face him. The news had spread across the galaxy. Billions watched and waited to see what kind of fighter could possibly challenge the undefeated champion. But the human didn't arrive. Not in 2 days. Not in 4. Brevik fought other challengers while he waited. 17 more warriors from different species tried to defeat him. All 17 fell. With each victory, Brevik's arrogance grew stronger. "Where is this mysterious human?" he shouted after his 10th victory during the waiting period. "Did they send a message and then flee in fear? Is this species too cowardly to show their face?" Elder Counselor Thex, I am watched from the council chamber with growing anxiety. He had received word that the human ship was experiencing technical difficulties, but he couldn't announce this without making humanity look weak before they even arrived. He simply had to hope they would make it in time. On the 12th day of waiting, Brevik made his ultimatum. "I am done waiting," he announced to the galaxy. "If this human does not arrive by the 15th sundown cycle, I will declare victory by default. I will leave your council, and the Chromoth Empire will no longer protect your weak civilizations. You have 3 more days." Fatter, the pressure mounted. The council sent urgent messages to Earth, asking for status updates. Admiral Yuna could only tell them the truth. The ship was coming, but it was slower than expected. On the ship, Jiwoo was growing increasingly frustrated. She had been trapped in this small vessel for nearly 2 weeks. She exercised in the tiny cargo bay to stay sharp. She practiced her forms until she could perform them perfectly, even in the ship's awkward artificial gravity. But mostly, she waited. "How much longer?" she asked the pilot for the 100th time. "We're close now," he replied, checking his instruments. "Maybe 6 more hours. But Jiwoo, you should know. We're going to arrive with only about 30 minutes to spare before their deadline." Jiwoo nodded. She had prepared for every scenario except being late. Now, she would have to walk into an arena full of aliens who had been waiting 2 weeks for her, with barely any time to prepare. It wasn't ideal, but it was what she had. The last 6 hours felt like days. Then, finally, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light speed and approached the Colosseum. Jiwoo looked out the viewport and saw the massive structure floating in space. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, larger than anything humanity had ever built. Thousands of ships surrounded it, from dozens of different species she had never imagined existed. The ship shuddered as they approached the docking bay. One of the engines was sparking, damaged from the hard journey. They landed roughly, the hull scraping against the dock with a horrible screech of metal. Jiwoo grabbed her duffel bag and headed for the airlock. The moment it opened, she stumbled out onto alien soil for the first time in human history. A delegation of beings waited for her. Tex, I am stood at the front, his tall frame and long fingers unlike anything she had seen. Behind him stood representatives from a dozen species, all staring at her with various types of eyes. Jiwoo realized she must look terrible. She was still wearing her rumpled fatigues from 2 weeks ago. She hadn't had a proper shower since leaving Earth. There was still dirt under her fingernails from the training course. And right now, after 6 hours of sitting in the ship, waiting to arrive, she desperately needed a bathroom. "Are you the human warrior?" "Thex," I am asked in a language that her earpiece translator converted to something she could understand. "Yes, sir," Jiwoo said, defaulting to military formality. "Sergeant Jiwoo, United Earth Defense Force. Where's the bathroom?" "I've been holding it for 6 hours." The translator rendered her words perfectly. Several of the alien representatives made sounds that might have been laughs or gasps. Thex's eye and blinked, his large eyes. "The facilities are this way," he said, gesturing. But you should know. You have 20 minutes before the deadline expires. Jiwoo followed him quickly through corridors filled with aliens. Some stopped to stare at her. Others pointed and whispered. She heard the word human repeated in various languages, all translated by her earpiece. After taking care of necessary business, she was led to a preparation chamber. Thex, I am explained the situation as quickly as possible. Champion Brevik has defeated 217 warriors, he said. He has never lost. He is considered the greatest fighter in the galaxy, and he is very, very angry that you are late. Understood, Jiwoo said. She opened her duffel bag and started pulling out her gear. A Chromath weapons master approached, carrying an array of advanced technology. We can provide you with enhanced armor, energy weapons, strength augmentation, and combat stimulants. You will need every advantage. Jiwoo looked at the offered equipment and shook her head. No, thank you. I'll use my own gear. The weapons master stared. But these are standard for arena combat. Without them, you will be at a severe disadvantage. I appreciate the offer, but I'm more comfortable with what I know, Jiwoo said politely. She pulled out her basic combat gear. Light, flexible armor, designed for movement, standard issue boots, and simple hand wraps. She also removed a small photograph of her family and tucked it into her chest pocket. Thex, I am watched in disbelief. You truly wish to fight with no weapons? No enhancements? I am the weapon, Jiwoo said simply. It was something her first instructor had taught her when she was 6 years old. She had never forgotten it. The counselor looked at his aide and whispered, We have made a terrible mistake. This human will be killed, and her species will blame us. The aide whispered back, It's too late now. Brevik is waiting. A massive bell rang throughout the Colosseum. The sound meant the deadline had arrived. It was time to fight. Jiwoo stood up, rolled her shoulders, and stretched her neck. She was tired from 2 weeks of travel. She was hungry because the ship's food had been terrible. She was probably not at her best, but she was here, and she had a job to do. Let's get this over with, she said. I'd really like to go home and sleep for about 20 hours. The doors to the arena opened. Light flooded in, along with the sound of millions of voices. Jiwoo walked forward into the noise, carrying nothing but herself. The arena floor was enormous, a circular platform 50 meters across made of some material that gleamed like polished stone. Above it, viewing platforms rose in tiers, filled with thousands of alien beings. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing Jiwoo's image to billions of viewers across the galaxy. She walked to the center and waited. The crowd's noise was overwhelming at first. Then it began to fade as everyone realized what they were seeing. This was humanity's champion, a small figure, barely over 1.5 meters tall, wearing simple clothing with no visible weapons. From the opposite entrance, Brevik emerged. Jiwoo had seen his image in the briefing files, but seeing him in person was different. He stood 3 meters tall, towering over her. His 4 arms moved independently, each holding a weapon. His armor reflected light, like it was made from pieces of stars. Brevik walked across the arena and stopped a few meters from Jiwoo. He looked down at her, and she heard him make a sound that her translator interpreted as laughter. This is the great human warrior? Brevik's voice boomed across the arena. You insult me. The galaxy sends a child to face me? Look at you. You're barely armed. You carry no weapons. Are you lost? Did you wander into the arena by accident? Jiwoo looked up at him calmly. She didn't respond. Her instructor had taught her long ago that words before a fight were usually just noise. Let the opponent talk. Use the time to observe, and she was observing everything. The way Brevik distributed his weight. Which of his 4 arms seemed to be dominant? The slight weakness in his left knee that suggested an old injury. The pattern of his breathing. She catalogued it all. in seconds. Nothing to say? Brevik continued. Perhaps you are wise to stay silent. When I am done with you, your species will learn their place in this galaxy. They will learn that some beings are warriors, and others are prey. The referee, a floating mechanical sphere left by the predecessors, announced the rules in a neutral voice. Combat will continue until one fighter yields, is incapacitated, or dies. The use of lethal force is permitted. Victory determines the challenged species' status in galactic society. Fighters, prepare. 2. Jiwoo rolled her shoulders and settled into a ready stance. It looked casual, almost relaxed, but every muscle in her body was perfectly positioned. Begin, the referee announced. Brevik attacked immediately. He was fast, incredibly fast for someone his size. His first strike came from his upper right arm, a blade moving in a downward arc meant to end the fight in one blow. Jiwoo moved her head 30 centimeters to the left. The blade passed through empty air. The second attack came from the lower left arm, a horizontal sweep. Jiwoo leaned backward, and the weapon missed by a finger's width. The third and fourth attacks came simultaneously from different angles. Jiwoo dropped into a crouch, and both weapons clashed together above her head where she had been standing. Then she stepped backward, out of range, and waited. Brevik paused, slightly confused. You're fast. Good. This might actually be entertaining. He attacked again. This time with a combination that had defeated his last 50 opponents. 4 weapons, moving in a pattern that was supposed to be impossible to defend against. Each strike flowed into the next, creating a continuous assault that left no opening. Jiwoo moved through the attacks like water flowing between rocks. She didn't block. She didn't parry. She simply wasn't where the weapons were. Her movements were minimal, efficient, wasting no energy. For 5 minutes, Brevik increased his speed and intensity. He used techniques that had taken him decades to master. He attacked from every angle. He feinted and struck. He used his superior reach and strength, and Jiwoo just kept avoiding him. She looked almost bored. At one point, she actually yawned. The yawn infuriated Brevik. Stop running and fight me. But Jiwoo wasn't running. She was learning. Every attack told her something new about Brevik's style. She was mapping his patterns, understanding his techniques, identifying his habits. This was what human fighters had learned to do over thousands of years of fighting each other. Humans studied. They adapted. They learned. In the viewing stands, Elder Counselor Thexai watched with growing confusion. His aide, who had been reviewing the human data files, said quietly, I think she's analyzing him. Look at her eyes. She's not afraid. She's curious. On his homeworld, the Chromath military leadership watched the fight with interest. They had expected Brevik to win in seconds. Instead, this small human was making him work for every missed strike. Across the galaxy, billions watched and wondered. What kind of fighter was this? What was her strategy? Jiwoo had seen enough. She stopped moving and stood still in the center of the arena. Brevik's next attack came from his upper left arm, a thrust with a spear that could pierce ship hulls. She caught it with her hand. The spear stopped completely. Jiwoo held it steady, her grip like iron. Brevik tried to pull it back, but it didn't move. He stared at her hand, in disbelief. I've figured out your patterns, Jiwoo said. Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact. You lead with your upper right arm. 70% of the time. Your lower left is your weakest. You favor circular attacks over linear ones. Your footwork is excellent for your size, but you telegraph your big strikes by shifting your weight 2 seconds early. You've fought opponents who relied on strength and speed, but not many who relied on technique. Brevik pulled harder on his spear. It still didn't move. Shall we begin? Jiwoo asked. She released the spear and moved. This time, she wasn't dodging. She was attacking. Her first strike hit Brevik's lower right wrist, exactly on a nerve cluster. His hand spasmed, and he dropped that weapon. Her second strike hit his upper left elbow, and that arm went numb. In 3 seconds, she had disarmed 2 of his 4 arms, using precise hits to vulnerable points. Brevik roared and swung with his remaining weapons. Jiwoo ducked under one, stepped inside the range of the other, and struck him twice in the ribs. Even through his legendary armor, he felt the impacts. Something cracked inside his chest. He stumbled backward, shocked. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced in combat. Fear. The crowd erupted in noise. Across the galaxy, beings who had watched Brevik dominate for years sat in stunned silence. The small human had just hurt him. Actually, hurt him. Brevik activated his armor's enhancement systems, doubling his strength. He attacked with everything he had, using his most powerful techniques. The arena floor cracked under his strikes. Energy crackled around his weapons. Jiwoo moved through it all, her expression focused but calm. She struck him again and again, each hit targeting a specific point, a nerve, a joint, a weak spot in his armor that she had identified in the first 30 seconds of the fight. Within 3 minutes of actually fighting, Brevik had lost all 4 weapons. He was bleeding from a dozen precise cuts. His armor was cracked in several places, and the human still looked fresh, like she had barely started. Brevik stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard. "What are you?" he gasped. Jiwoo tilted her head slightly. "I'm tired. Very tired. I've been traveling for 2 weeks in a broken ship. I had to hold my bladder for 6 hours. I haven't had a good meal or proper sleep. And I really want to go home." She took a step forward. "So, please, can we finish this quickly?" Brevik stared at the human standing before him. Blood dripped from his wounds onto the arena floor. His armor, which had been pristine at the start, now showed cracks and dents. His 4 arms hung at his sides, disarmed and aching. "You haven't even tried yet," he said, the realization hitting him. "This whole time, you've been holding back." Jiwoo didn't answer. She simply waited. Brevik reached to his armor's core and released the final safety limiters. Every Chromath warrior had this emergency option, but using it was dangerous. It would triple his strength and double his speed for a short time. But the strain on his body would be immense. He had only used it twice before, both times against opponents who had pushed him to his absolute limits. Energy surged through his body, his muscles swelled, his eyes began to glow with power. The arena floor cracked beneath his feet as his weight increased with his enhanced density. "Is this finally enough to make you try?" he roared. Jiwoo sighed. "I am trying. I'm trying not to kill you," Brevik charged. At his enhanced speed, he crossed 10 meters in less than a second. His punch could have shattered a concrete wall. It was the fastest, most powerful strike he had ever thrown. Jiwoo stepped to the side and tapped his extended arm with 2 fingers. The strike missed, and Brevik's momentum carried him forward. He stumbled, shocked that such a simple counter had worked. He spun and attacked again, throwing a combination of strikes that blurred together. Each punch carried enough force to damage a combat vehicle. Any one of them could have killed a normal being instantly. Jiwoo moved between the strikes like she was dancing. She tapped his knee, and his leg buckled. She touched his shoulder, and his arm went numb. She pressed 2 fingers against his ribs, and he felt something inside him crack despite all his enhancements. After 30 seconds of this, Brevik stopped. He was breathing hard, his enhanced state draining his energy rapidly. The human stood in front of him, completely calm. She hadn't even broken a sweat. How? In the viewing platforms, Dex-IM was frantically searching through the human database files. What he found made his blood run cold. "Pull up the human homeworld data," he told his aide. "I need to understand what we're dealing with." The information appeared on his screen. Earth's gravity was 30% higher than galactic standard. The planet was classified as a death world by predecessor standards. It had extreme temperature variations, violent weather patterns, and an atmosphere that would be considered harsh by most civilized species. But what really caught Thexiam's attention was the biological data. Humans had evolved as endurance predators on a world full of large, dangerous animals. Their bodies were designed for sustained effort and rapid recovery. They could regulate their temperature through sweating, allowing them to chase prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then he found the military history files. His hands began to shake as he read. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire recorded history, not occasional conflicts, continuous warfare. Every generation had known combat. Every culture had developed its own fighting systems. By the time they were 6 years old, many human children began learning formalized martial arts. The file included a note from the predecessor AI. Species shows exceptional pattern recognition, adaptive learning, and combat innovation. 10,000 years of continuous warfare has created a population where even average individuals possess combat skills that would be considered expert level by galactic standards. Thexiam looked at Jiwoo in the arena below. She was ranked 3,847 globally. That meant there were 3,846 humans who were better fighters than her. The thought was terrifying. In the arena, Brevik attempted his final technique. It was called the Starbreaker, a move that channeled all of his enhanced energy into a single, devastating strike. He had used it once to crack a planetary defense shield during the border wars. It had never failed. He gathered all his remaining power and struck at Jiwoo with everything he had. She walked through the energy blast like it was a gentle breeze. Her uniform was slightly singed at the edges, and she looked down at the scorch marks with mild annoyance. "You're getting ash on me," she said. "I just wash this." Then she moved. 3 precise strikes, faster than most observers could follow. The first hit Brevik's solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. The second struck a pressure point in his neck, disrupting his nervous system. The third was a controlled strike to his temple that was perfectly calibrated to knock him unconscious without causing permanent damage. Brevik fell. The undefeated champion of the galaxy collapsed onto the arena floor, completely defeated. The crowd was silent. Across billions of viewing screens throughout the galaxy, beings sat in shocked disbelief. It had taken 11 minutes total. Jiwoo had spent 8 minutes analyzing Brevik, and 3 minutes defeating him. The referee sphere floated down. Champion Brevik is incapacitated. Champion Brevik is incapacitated. Victory is awarded to Sergeant Jiwoo of Earth. Humanity is deemed worthy of galactic society. Jiwoo walked over to Brevik's unconscious form and checked his vital signs. Her medical training from the UEDF kicked in automatically. His breathing was steady. His pulse was strong. He would wake up soon with a headache, but he would be fine. When Brevik's eyes opened a few minutes later, he found Jiwoo sitting next to him, offering him a water container from her duffel bag. "Drink," she said. "You're dehydrated from the enhancement drain." Brevik took the water with shaking hands. He drank, and then he stared at her. "What are you? What is your species?" "We're humans," Jiwoo said simply. "We come from a planet called Earth. It's got heavy gravity, bad weather, and it's full of things that tried to kill us for millions of years, so we learned to be very good at not dying. You're stronger than me," Brevik said. It wasn't a question. "No," Jiwoo corrected. "You're physically stronger. But I've been training to fight since I was 6 years old. My planet has 8 billion people, and about 2 billion of us have some level of combat training. We've spent 10,000 years fighting each other, so we've learned every possible way to hurt someone efficiently." She paused, then added, "Also, I'm ranked 3,847 inches our global combat standings. That means I'm good, but I'm not exceptional. There are thousands of humans better than me." Brevik's eyes widened. Then why did they send you? Because I was available, Jiwoo said honestly. And because I know when to stop. Some of our best fighters are brilliant in combat, but terrible at diplomacy. I follow orders. I don't cause problems. And I know the difference between winning a fight and making a point. She helped him sit up. On Earth, you'd make a decent training instructor. You're strong, you're fast, and your technique is solid. You just haven't fought anyone who trained the way we do. Brevik sat in silence, processing this information. His entire worldview was changing. He had thought he was the greatest warrior in the galaxy. Now he understood that he had never faced a real challenge because the truly dangerous species had been locked away, hidden from galactic view. What happens now? He asked. Jiwoo stood up and stretched. Now, I really need to find some food and a bed. After that, I'll let the diplomats figure out the political stuff. I'm just a soldier. I was told to come here and fight. I did. Job's done. She offered him her hand to help him stand. Brevik looked at the gesture, then took it. The human pulled him to his feet, with surprising strength. I want to learn from you, Brevik said suddenly. I have found my worthy opponent. Let me train with your people. Let me understand what makes you so formidable. Jiwoo considered this. That's not my decision to make, but I'll recommend it to my superiors. Everyone deserves the chance to improve. She picked up her duffel bag and started walking toward the exit. The crowd finally found their voice, erupting into noise. Some cheered. Some sat in stunned silence. Some felt fear. Jiwoo just wanted breakfast and sleep, in that order. The council chamber fell silent as Admiral Yuna entered. She had arrived 6 hours after Jiwoo's victory, leading a small fleet of 5 Earth ships. They were the first human vessels to travel beyond their solar system, and their arrival had caused quite a stir. Yuna walked with military precision to the center of the chamber, where the representatives from 47 species waited. Her uniform was crisp, her bearing confident, but not aggressive. She had spent the journey preparing for this moment. Elder Counselor Thexiam stood to address her. Admiral Yuna, of Earth, we welcome you to the Galactic Council. Your champion has proven humanity's worth in combat. We are prepared to discuss your species' integration into galactic society. Yuna nodded respectfully. Thank you, Counselor. Before we begin those discussions, I need to address some concerns I believe you have about humanity. She activated a holographic display that showed Earth's history. The images were not flattering. Wars, weapons, conflict spanning thousands of years. She didn't try to hide any of it. You've read our files, Yuna said. You know what we are. You know we've fought continuously throughout our history. You know the predecessors locked us away because they considered us too dangerous. And after watching Sergeant Jiwoo defeat your greatest champion, you're probably terrified of what we might do. Nervous movement rippled through the chamber. Yuna had stated their fears plainly. Let me be clear about something, Yuna continued. Yes, we're good at fighting. We've had a lot of practice. But you're misunderstanding what that means. We didn't fight for 10,000 years because we love violence. We fought because we're divided, diverse, and passionate. Every war we've ever had started because people cared deeply about something, whether it was resources, beliefs, or survival. She changed the holographic display to show Earth's recent history. 20 years ago, we achieved global peace, not because we became weak, but because we finally learned to channel our passion toward building instead of destroying. We unified our species, formed the United Earth Defense Force, and started looking outward instead of fighting among ourselves. The predecessors were right to quarantine us, Yuna admitted. 500 years ago, we weren't ready for contact. We would have caused chaos. But we're different now. We've grown up. Counselor Mira, the three-eyed representative, spoke up nervously. With respect, Admiral, your Sergeant Jiwoo defeated our greatest warrior easily. She said she ranked 3,000, 847 among your fighters. That means you could conquer this galaxy if you wished. Yuna smiled. We could. But why would we? We have everything we need at home. Earth has resources, space, and 8 billion people working together to build a better future. Conquering you would just give us problems we don't want and responsibilities we don't need. She let that sink in, then continued. Here's what humanity wants. We want to be part of galactic society as equals. We'll share our knowledge. We'll help protect species that need protection. We'll trade, exchange culture, and learn from you. But we govern ourselves. We make our own decisions, and we won't be treated as subordinates just because we arrived late to the galactic community. Dexiam leaned forward. And if we refuse these terms, then we go home. Yuna said simply. We'll be disappointed, but we'll respect your decision. We're not going to force ourselves on you. The galaxy managed fine without us for thousands of years. You'll continue to manage fine. The honesty surprised many in the chamber. They had expected threats or demands. Instead, the human admiral was offering partnership or peaceful separation. What about your combat capabilities? Asked a Thorian representative. Will you share your training methods? Absolutely, Yuna said. Sergeant Ji-woo has already agreed to accept students. We believe everyone has the right to defend themselves. We'll teach anyone who wants to learn. Our martial arts, our tactics, our strategies are all available to share. Brevik, who had been allowed to observe the proceedings, stood up from his seat in the gallery. His wounds had been treated, but he still moved carefully. I wish to be the first student. I have fought for 30 years and never known true challenge. The humans showed me how much I still have to learn. I request permission to train on Earth. Yuna looked up at him and nodded. Request granted, Champion Brevik. You're welcome to join our program. Though I should warn you, our training is intense. You'll be starting from basics alongside human children who began at age 6. Brevik bowed his head. I accept these terms with honor. The council debated for 3 hours. Yuna waited patiently, answering questions when asked, but mostly letting them discuss among themselves. Finally, I am called for a vote, all in favor of accepting humanity into the Galactic Council as equal members, with autonomous governance and mutual defense agreements. One by one, the representatives voted. Some voted yes immediately. Others hesitated before agreeing. A few voted no, still afraid of what humanity represented. But the majority voted yes. The motion passes. I am announced. Welcome to galactic civilization, humanity. May your species bring new strength to our union. Yuna bowed formally. We're honored to join you. We look forward to a long and peaceful cooperation. After the formal proceedings ended, Yuna found Ji-woo in a rest area, finally eating a proper meal. The sergeant looked exhausted but relieved. How did it go? Ji-woo asked between bites of something that resembled pasta. We're in, Yuna said, sitting down across from her. Ji-woo nodded. He's got potential. Needs to work on his footwork and stop telegraphing his strikes. But he's got a good foundation. I can work with him. Yuna laughed. You just defeated the galaxy's greatest champion, and you're critiquing his technique. Well, he asked for feedback. Ji-woo said with a shrug. I'm a trainer. It's what I do. There's one more thing, Yuna added. The predecessor AI updated its database entry on humanity. Want to know what it says now? Ji-woo raised an eyebrow. Sure. Yuna pulled up the file on her tablet and read aloud. Species. Human. Status. Active galactic member. Risk level. Extreme, but manageable. Note. Humans excel when challenged. Do not challenge them. Second note. Humans prefer peace, but are exceptionally skilled at war. This makes them ideal peacekeepers, as they understand both states intimately. Third note. Despite 2-week delay due to technical difficulties, human representative arrived and achieved victory in 11 minutes. Efficiency rating: exceptional. Jiwoo smiled tiredly. That's nice. Can I go home now? I really need about 20 hours of sleep. Ship leaves in 3 hours, Yuna confirmed. And this time, I promise it won't break down. As they prepared to depart, beings from dozens of species approached Jiwoo. Some wanted to shake her hand. Others wanted to take pictures. A few wanted to ask about training. She handled each interaction with patient professionalism, even though she was clearly exhausted. A young alien, barely more than a child by their species' standards, approached nervously. Excuse me, Sergeant Jiwoo. I watched your fight. You made it look easy. How did you stay so calm? Jiwoo knelt down to the child's level. It's not about being fearless. I was nervous. I'm always nervous before a fight. But my teachers taught me that fear is just energy. You can let it control you, or you can use it to stay sharp and focused. The trick is accepting the fear and moving forward anyway. The child's guardian thanked her, and they walked away discussing what she had said. Brevik approached as Jiwoo was boarding her ship. I will see you on Earth in 1 month, he said. I need time to settle my affairs and prepare for training. I'll be ready, Jiwoo said. Bring comfortable clothes. Our training starts at dawn and goes until dusk, and be prepared to start with basics. I don't care if you're a champion. On Earth, everyone starts from the beginning. Brevik nodded seriously. I understand. I look forward to learning humility, along with skill. The human ships departed from the Colosseum, heading back toward Earth. As they traveled, news of the fight and the subsequent council meeting spread across the galaxy. Some species felt relief. Humanity had shown they were powerful, but reasonable. Others felt excitement about the new possibilities. A few felt lingering fear, worried about what would happen if humans ever decided to use their full strength for conquest. But most species understood the truth that Yuna had spoken. Humanity had grown beyond their violent past. They had learned the greatest lesson any species could learn. That true strength wasn't just about the ability to destroy, but about the wisdom to build instead. On Earth, news of first contact and Jiwoo's victory spread quickly. The planet celebrated. Jiwoo became an instant celebrity, though she tried to avoid the attention. She just wanted to return to her training duties. When her ship finally landed at the UEDF headquarters, she was greeted by crowds and cameras. Officials wanted speeches. Media wanted interviews. Everyone wanted a piece of humanity's first galactic champion. Jiwoo endured exactly 1 hour of this before she politely but firmly excused herself. She went to her quarters, took the longest shower of her life, and slept for 18 hours straight. When she woke up, there was a message from Admiral Yuna. Report to training facility at 0600 tomorrow. You have 40 new recruits waiting, including one former galactic champion who thinks he's ready for human training. Show them what we're made of. Jiwoo smiled, sent back a simple, acknowledged, and went to prepare her lesson plans. The galaxy had learned about humanity through combat. Now they would learn through teaching. And in Jiwoo's opinion, that was a much better way to make friends. The story of the late arrival who won easily would be told across the galaxy for generations. But for Jiwoo, it was just another mission completed. She had a class to teach tomorrow, and that mattered more than any championship title. Humanity had joined the stars. And they had done it their way, arriving late, winning decisively, and then offering to help everyone else improve. It was the most human thing they could have done.